Yes, I recently finished a biography of a native writer from a century ago whose father was an important part of the tribe, so important that Rogers County, Oklahoma is named after him. I'm thinking of Will Rogers. Is that one of the authors that was included in your curriculum?
No. But I do know that he was, what, Cherokee maybe?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're an enrolled member of the Arapaho and...
Well, okay, the technical thing is I'm an enrolled member of Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes of Oklahoma, but we're Southern Cheyenne. There's Southern and Northern Cheyennes. And even within that, there's different types of Cheyennes, like that my dad knows. He grew up with his great-grandparents.
Yeah.
And so he grew up, he didn't speak English until he was 5 or even see a white person until he was 5.
Wow.
So he grew up kind of this old way. And he even knows the breakdown of different types of Cheyennes, which side that we're on, because he grew up hearing a lot of old stories. So,
Yeah.
So if I have to say, like, technically, because there's like a accreditation thing you have to do as a Native person, I have to say, like, I'm enrolled member of Cheyenne.
But it's more complicated.
But I know that I'm Cheyenne, like it's.
Yeah.
It's that
But if
part.
Will Rogers is a Cheyenne, but that doesn't necessarily mean that...
Well, he's Cherokee.
Cherokee. But it doesn't necessarily mean... I mean, it's interesting to think about. Will, I don't necessarily think of Will Rogers as a native writer. I mean, that's the...
It's one of those things that I think in retrospect, people have more... The Native world has kind of owned him because I think he was like half or a quarter or...
Yeah.
And I think I saw a documentary a while ago about some of his involvement in the actual Native community. So he was aware of it, and it's such a tricky subject.
I can't even. I totally understand. Ma'am.
I wanted to let you know that this morning at the Texas Book Festival that you got a wonderful shout out to you from Michael Beschloss, the historian, at the C-SPAN tent. And your book is flying off the stacks in the sales. I picked it up myself. My question for you is I'd really like to hear a little bit more about your creative process. Describe for me what your space looks like. Are you in a dedicated part of your house? Are you on a laptop? Do you keep yellow stick-em notes? Just a little bit more about the process.
Good.
Do you need noise? Do you need, for goodness sakes, no noise?
Good. Nerd out on this stuff
Nerd
for us.
me
We can
out.
handle
Sure.
it.
Please nerd me out.
So when Senator Sesteros was here a couple of hours ago, she talked about how she can't talk to anybody the entire day that she's
Wow.
writing. Like
Yes.
something like that, as specific. So.
Yeah, so after having a kid, I stopped being precious about when I could write and where I could write. I just did it whenever I could. One weird thing is I lie down and write a lot. So my dad growing up was always lying down in front of the TV, and I would lie down with him. And I think I picked it up from there. So I'm actually like lying down with my elbows propped and a laptop is what I use. By the time I started writing, I was only using a laptop. So my handwriting is terrible, and I never write anything by longhand. Part of my process is also running. This is something that, especially with the complicated nature of this book and needing deeper solutions as to how everybody's going to fit together, the deeper solutions would always come when I went for runs. So running became part of the writing process. So I'll stop and take notes on my phone when I get an answer.
Oh, really?
And
You do that?
Yeah. So it's that reliable that I don't say brain come up with the answer and then expect it to come, but I'll just run every day, and I'll always get answers or I'll get new ideas for what directions to go. So running's part of it. I read out loud. I think everybody who writes should read out loud because you get a perspective on it. I also have an app that reads in a robot voice to me, my own work. So you can upload it to that, and there's a robot named Micah who has a southern drawl. And it's just enough.
Because?
It's just enough. Well, I choose him because it's just enough weirdness to make it sound human. Their attempt at southern drawl actually makes him sound more human than all the other robot voices.
Right.
So he gives me perspective on how to fix sentences because I'll hear something that I didn't hear when I was reading out loud or when I was just looking at the page. The robot will help me.
What is the name of this app?
Voice Dream.
Voice Dream. Mm-hmm. Boy, that was a really good answer.
Thank you so much.
It was such a specific answer. I'm glad it wasn't like I sit in a Starbucks. Just much better. So, ma'am.
Having read the book, my observation would be that many of the characters lived either despairing or somewhat sad lives. And I wondered if that was your observation as well, if that's what you intended, if that's what life is like in Oakland, or is that just a subset of what you were writing about?
Do you accept the premise that
Right.
that this
I don't
is
know
a...
if you do it.
I mean, when you're talking about people's actual lives, like there's a whole bunch of elements from my own life that if I told you all of them, if you said that's sad, that'd probably make me sad. Like I lived through them and they were hard, but I lived through them and I'm okay. So other Native people who have read my book, that's the one thing I haven't heard is that it's sad. So I think people who have gone through hard experiences don't necessarily get the same takeaway. I hope that it's sadness with transcendence or sadness with hope. I certainly admit to being a sad person, but I try to take it in stride, and I try to transcend it as much as I can.
But you can understand, if you can take a step or two back from it, you can understand how someone coming to the story without the experience
Sure.
might take away from it that this is, it can be a hard book to read
I
at
think
times.
hard and tragic I would prefer. Sadness just sounds like, sad just sounds sad. It doesn't go anywhere. Tragedy has kind of like a bigger scope to it. So I see the sadness, and I wrote in sadness on purpose because I've experienced a lot of it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say no to your answer or your question about do I see it that way, but I think it's a lot of things. And sometimes when it gets just put as sad, it feels dismissive or reductive.
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, Evan, I'm going to make you unhappy. I'll bring up Donald Trump.
Okay, no, it happens. That's
As a native writer, do you see Donald Trump as a big difference from a lot of the other presidents that preceded him?
Well, first of all, yes.
Okay, good. Good. I
But
mean, Obama to me.
you don't want to think about it for a second? You kind of you're right there with that. Okay.
Obama was a minority that got elected, and I was very happy to see that. But I just wondered if you looked at Donald Trump as different in a way that we don't.
Yeah, I mean, his favorite president is Andrew Jackson, who's one of the worst, treated Natives some of the worst of, maybe the worst of any other president.
There's an Andrew Jackson portrait someplace
He
strategically
replaced-
placed
yeah,
right
he
in
replaced.
the yeah.
So there are certain things that are coming up in the country that I think Native people and people of color have always known is there. So I think, I was telling you earlier, as long as we get through it, I think it can ultimately be a good thing to look at, to have to look at these things that would otherwise, if we got somebody that was more friendly and less insane, it would have been easy for some of these things that have come up to just let them continue to bubble underneath. There's a funny story about this book and Donald Trump. He's sort of haunted me in the book from the beginning.
Is it because it's orange?
Well, that's part of it. So the way my manuscript found its way to my agent, which is, big part of my success is because I had a terrific agent she's got a big roster of very famous authors. I was at a writing conference just reading from my manuscript for this, and an author heard me, and she said, "Give me your manuscript, I'm going to send it to my agent." And another author had said the same thing, but nothing happened. This happens a lot of the time. I've done it to students. "Give me your manuscript, I'll send it off," and I haven't done it yet. But I did just send one off, and
But you always mean well.
Yes. Yes, and I don't expect even when somebody, or I didn't expect at the time that it would necessarily happen. It's a nice thing to say to somebody. And,
Yeah.
but the day after Trump got in, these different writers took it as a call to action because they're literary people and that's all they can do. And so sent it off to their agent with a very glowing letter about my book. They really did genuinely like the book, but I think politically they were charged by the moment.
Yeah.
And my agent was up 3 nights later with anxiety because she's not from this country, and she was going to have to go back to see her mom or something like that. She was afraid she wouldn't be able to get back in.
Right.
She was up at 4 a.m. with anxiety, and she read my manuscript, and she said it gave her hope. And so she called me the next day and signed with me.
Isn't that great?
So I've been paralleling with Trump.
Right.
The book and Trump's rise have been going together.
Right.
And a chapter from the novel was published in the New Yorker,
Right.
and on the front is a naked Trump in front of a podium. And when I
Oh,
was
is that issue, right? Yes. Yeah.
and when I was in London, he happened to be in London too, and there was a baby Trump
Right.
blimp in the sky that sort of was continuing to haunt me in the book's path.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you I won't wish it to Trump, but I wish you a lot of success in the
Thank you.
going
I mean,
up.
it's a terrific question, and I think and an even better answer, and we'll close on this. The interesting thing to me is that I, again, took away that from the book that the Native experience is akin in many respects to the immigrant experience, which is, of course, ironic because we're the immigrants. I mean, you know, the idea that somehow, but that there's this sort of view of the Native community as somehow the other. And that's a feature of life today times 10 times 10 times 10.
Yeah.
Right? It's all around us. And so it's just so interesting to consider that weirdness at this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's largely because the basic fact of wiping most of a people out.
Right.
And so our representation is limited because we're just, frankly, at 2% of the population.
Right. Well, there are a couple of Native candidates on the ballot
Winona LaDuke, is she going?
this
Yeah.
fall who have a chance of being elected to Congress, and it's, you know, I guess you have to start someplace, right?
Yeah.
That's how this goes. Tommy, good luck. We're all pulling for you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here. Give Tommy Orange a big hand. Great. Thank you very much.